Oscar-winning director Guillermo del Toro has a brand new film exclusively streaming on Netflix, that makes me die a little bit inside, called Frankenstein. A brand new, wholly original film about a character who's never been done before. It's one of a kind, folks. No, Frankenstein's been around for quite some time. It is always interesting seeing which angle, which route they want to take the character in. And when you pair this material with Del Toro, who's a master of bringing creatures to the screen, think Shape of Water, think Hellboy, think Pan's Labyrinth. This dude is truly a visionary, but the vision gets scary when you hear that this is going straight to Netflix. It did have a limited theatrical release, very limited, but primarily the focus is releasing this on the streaming platform. I had my reservations as a massive fan of this director because Netflix and other streaming companies are very churn and burn with their products, and that's really how they look at film, is products at the end of the day. But I did watch this 2.5-hour film, and I have thoughts that I'm going to give you in a spoiler-free review. Let's begin. Before I tell you whether or not Frankenstein is worth your time on the couch, if you wouldn't mind plugging up a couple jumper cables to the subscribe button on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, I would appreciate it, as I post movie reviews all the time, several a week as a matter of fact. Would love to have you stick around. All right, what we have here with Frankenstein is a beautiful looking film. I cannot stress enough how gorgeous this movie looks on the eyes, and I cannot tell you how absolutely broken I was to be laying in the comfort of my own bed watching it on my TV, because it's in no way, shape, or form a good substitute for seeing something like this on the biggest screen possible with the best sound imaginable. And I really hate the fact that Frankenstein was not playing in theaters where it belongs. And obviously I say that because I really enjoyed this film. In fact, the only real hang-up I have with it has entirely to do with the fact that I watched it at home. When you go watch a movie in the theaters, you are more engaged with the film. Unless, of course, you're one of those jack-offs that I guess has disposable income and really doesn't like going to movies. They just don't want to be around their kids. So they sit in a seat by themselves and scroll on Facebook for 2 hours. What the hell is wrong with these people? When I go to the movies, I am far more invested than I am with the distractions around the house. Getting up to go to the bathroom more often, going to fix a sandwich in the kitchen, maybe someone calls while I'm watching the movie, so I pause it. There's just a lot of different things that can get in the way of enjoying the movie and being fully engaged. And so when you have a runtime that's 2.5 hours long, that's a good amount of dedication for someone who has all these different noises in his way. And the reason for this big prelude to the film review is I'm giving myself an excuse, and I'm also giving a lot of moviegoers that watch this at home an excuse for maybe thinking that this is a bit longer than it should be. And that is my only hang-up with this brilliant film. Del Toro is so freaking masterful at bringing monsters out, showing their soft side, showing monsters within the supposed good people. Oftentimes it's the people that are disfigured, gross looking externally, that you sympathize with the most, or you find out are the most warm and welcoming. And there's no exception here. You see a lot of ideas in Frankenstein that Del Toro has presented in other movies, like The Shape of Water, like Pan's Labyrinth. And the biggest theme that's carried over from those films here is that love story, is that connection this character has with the world around him, and how Victor Frankenstein's monster is treated by those that come into contact with him for the first time. Without going into any details, I'll give you just the basic premise of this if you're unfamiliar with Frankenstein. Victor Frankenstein is a scientist. He is hell-bent on cracking the code to the afterlife. More so, how to resurrect the dead. This movie spans a range of years, starting around the 1850s. Our brilliant scientist, Victor Frankenstein, is played by Oscar Isaac. He is obsessed with his goal. The only thing that ever distracts him from his work is a beautiful woman named Elizabeth, played by Mia Goth, who just so happens to be engaged to Victor's younger brother. This film, along with a lot of other movies I've seen in the last couple years, is going to tell this tale in a few different parts, or acts, or chapters, or whatever they would come up with. Basically just a way to give us a beginning, middle, and end. The first half focusing on Victor's storyline, the second half going into the monsters, and finally ending with the stories converging together. The monster in the movie is played by Jacob Elordi. He is a very practical interpretation of Frankenstein. He's not this gigantic mammoth of a man. He is a tall drink of water, but he's also very normal-ish looking, normal enough for having different body parts sewn together and being reanimated back to life. Elordi, I thought, did a fantastic job as Frankenstein. He can come off as very creepy and unhinged at times, and at other times, he's soft-spoken, he's well-natured, and he's learning to grow as an individual, something his master Victor won't really ever accomplish, at least not in a convincing way for anyone else. To class the picture up even more, we have Charles Dance in here as Victor's father. We have Christoph Waltz in here as the investor. Hell, we even have Filch in this film from Harry Potter. I mean, the actor, not the character, although that would be pretty cool. I guess the biggest service I can offer you in terms of a review is this. If you are expecting a Frankenstein movie that runs like Van Helsing, you're going to be very disappointed. If you are familiar with Guillermo del Toro's work, you will know that he takes his time building a story up, building up characters and settings, and then he absolutely rewards you when the final act comes around. Here is no exception. I felt things watching Frankenstein. Sympathy, anger, a little bit of fear, not so much because I was scared, but fear for the people in the film, especially a lovable blind character that shows up in the second half, along with a lot of CG animals later in the game. Del Toro at one point was like, you know what we need more of? CG critters. Let's get some wolves in here. Let's get some deer, a couple squirrel prancing around. Get them all. I want to turn this shit into Snow White in the second half. While the animal effects were definitely not the most convincing, this is cinema on the small screen. I can't get over how pretty it looks, and the score is booming too, just driving that narrative forward even more. And Oscar Isaac, who I've always enjoyed in the past, really impresses me in this one as his character gets more and more unhinged and more obsessed as the story progresses. Frustrated with his creation, wanting more from him without taking the time to slow himself down and learn how to best connect with your own creation. Now, even though this is not an action-heavy movie by any means, it is rated R. There is some pretty gross stuff here and there. You're going to see a bit of the surgery as he's working on his creation. You're going to see a few action set pieces. The aforementioned wolves are involved in one of the bigger ones, and my God, that gets pretty brutal. There's skinning of the animals. One of them gets freaking snapped backwards. Frankenstein takes him and folds him like a paper airplane. And I will say, if you have a weak stomach, there is going to be a couple moments where you're going to want to turn away, like my wife did, who also really loved this movie. I think she liked it more. Definitely shed a tear or two when the thing wound down. After what could very well be the worst year on record for Netflix exclusive films, Frankenstein single-handedly pulls this ship out of the ice and shows people, hey, there's still hope for this damn app yet. But even then, it really pains me that I did not get to experience this on the big screen where it should have been. And I think that's probably a fair place to stop the review. Let me know if you checked out this new Frankenstein, if you liked it as much as I did, or if you thought it was just too slow for my ADD-riddled brain. I didn't care about anything going on. Or perhaps you enjoyed the slower, more somber approach to the story and how this narrative weaves between these two characters and comes back together at the end. And I would love if you came back to the channel again by subbing once again to Adam Does Movies on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Hopefully, I see you next time. Take care.